Antarctica, the last great frontier of the Earth, is a place of unparalleled mystery and isolation. As the icy winds whip through its desolate plains, it remains one of the most enigmatic and underexplored regions on the planet. But what if everything we know about this frozen continent is only the surface? What if beneath the thick sheets of ice, hidden away from the eyes of the world, is a secret that could reshape our understanding of history, power, and the future of humanity itself? Imagine, for a moment, that Antarctica isn't just a barren, lifeless wasteland, but a land of immense importance, one that has been the subject of conflict and secrecy for centuries. Far from being a remote wilderness, it could be the final battleground in an invisible war that is being fought beneath the ice. While the world focuses on the shrinking polar ice caps and climate change, there's an entirely different struggle playing out in the shadows, one that involves resources, hidden technologies, and perhaps even ancient powers that have long been buried beneath the ice. The first thing most people think of when they imagine Antarctica is ice, vast, endless, freezing ice. A land devoid of life, except for a few penguins, seals, and scientific research stations. The reality, however, is far more complicated. The continent, which sits at the southernmost point of the Earth, has long been a site of intrigue and speculation. It is a place that seems to resist our understanding, offering only fleeting glimpses into its deep, frozen past. For centuries, Antarctica was simply a distant dream, a vast unknown on the maps of early explorers. But as technology advanced, so too did our ability to probe this frozen frontier, revealing that what lies beneath the ice is far more than a simple wasteland. In the early 20th century, explorers like Ernest Shackleton and Robert Falcon Scott made their harrowing journeys to the Antarctic, setting the stage for modern expeditions. However, what they discovered was only the beginning. Over time, Antarctica has transformed from a scientific curiosity into something much darker, a battleground of competing powers, secret interests, and hidden treasures. The question that lingers is simple yet profound. Why has Antarctica remained so heavily guarded? What is it about this seemingly inhospitable land that has drawn the interest of so many, from military leaders to corporate giants? The answer, many argue, lies not in the land itself, but in what lies beneath it. Antarctica is home to some of the world's most precious and rare resources, many of which have yet to be fully explored or exploited. Beneath its thick layers of ice, the continent hides vast mineral deposits, including rare earth metals, oil, and natural gas. These resources are invaluable in a world that is increasingly dependent on them for technology, energy, and industry. In fact, some estimates suggest that Antarctica may hold up to 1/5 of the world's undiscovered freshwater, and its mineral wealth could rival that of the Middle East. This is where the story takes a more sinister turn. While much of the world believes that Antarctica is off-limits due to environmental concerns and international treaties, the reality may be very different. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959 by 12 countries, is supposed to preserve the continent for peaceful scientific exploration. It prohibits military activity, protects the environment, and suspends all territorial claims. However, despite the treaty's intentions, there have been numerous reports of military operations, covert expeditions, and corporate interests that suggest a far more complex situation than the public is led to believe. Why, if Antarctica is so protected, have there been so many mysterious incidents surrounding it? One of the most curious and persistent theories surrounding Antarctica is the idea that the continent was once home to an ancient civilization. Some researchers have pointed to unusual anomalies in the ice and satellite images that seem to show structures buried beneath the surface. These structures, which resemble pyramids, temples, or other ancient forms of architecture, could suggest that Antarctica was once a thriving civilization before it was swallowed by the ice. The evidence for this theory is far from conclusive, but it raises a tantalizing possibility. What if the ancient world knew something about Antarctica that we don't? This brings us to a particularly fascinating chapter in the history of Antarctica, the Nazi expedition of the 1930s. During World War II, the Nazis launched an expedition to Antarctica, which they called New Swabia. It is widely believed that the Nazis were interested in Antarctica for its strategic value, but some conspiracy theorists argue that they were searching for something much more profound. Rumors persist that the Nazis discovered ancient technology or even extraterrestrial artifacts buried beneath the ice, and that their obsession with occultism and the supernatural may have driven them to explore the continent for hidden powers. While these claims have never been fully verified, the idea that Antarctica could be home to an ancient, otherworldly presence continues to captivate the imagination of many. In the decades that followed, Antarctica remained largely out of the public eye. However, as the Cold War unfolded, the continent became a focus of both military and scientific interests. The United States and the Soviet Union, both keen to maintain a foothold in the region, began establishing research stations in Antarctica, ostensibly for scientific purposes. But as we now know, there is often more to these scientific expeditions than meets the eye. During the Cold War, both superpowers likely used Antarctica as a testing ground for secret weapons, surveillance technology, and even nuclear experiments. The region's remote location made it an ideal setting for operations that could be concealed from the public. As time passed, Antarctica became an increasingly important focal point for global power struggles, though its significance remained hidden behind the veil of scientific research. Today, many countries continue to maintain a presence on the continent, from research stations to covert military operations. But what exactly are these countries really searching for? Is Antarctica truly the pristine, untouched wilderness that it appears to be, or is it a resource-rich battleground for the world's most powerful nations? Are the oceans of ice that surround the continent concealing something far more valuable than anyone could have imagined? This question becomes all the more pressing when we consider the contemporary significance of Antarctica. With the effects of climate change becoming more pronounced, the ice sheets that cover the continent are slowly melting, exposing areas that were once inaccessible. As the ice recedes, previously hidden resources, minerals, freshwater, and even oil, are becoming easier to access. In this new age of global competition for resources, Antarctica is set to become a key player in the geopolitics of the future. The idea that this uninhabited, frozen land could hold the key to the next global resource war is both terrifying and fascinating. For now, the secrets of Antarctica remain locked beneath the ice, waiting to be uncovered. But as more and more nations turn their eyes southward, it's only a matter of time before the truth comes to light. What will we find beneath the frozen surface of Antarctica? Will it be the treasures of an ancient civilization, the remnants of a secret military base, or perhaps the hidden technologies that could change the course of human history? Whatever it is, one thing is certain. The story of Antarctica is far from over. The battle for its secrets has only just begun, and the world is about to learn that the frozen continent may hold the answers to questions that have long been shrouded in mystery. Antarctica is a place where the laws of nature seem to be suspended, a vast, inhospitable expanse of ice and snow that stretches endlessly in all directions. For most of history, the world barely took notice of this icy wilderness. However, as technology advanced, explorers, scientists, and even governments began to realize that Antarctica was far from the barren wasteland it appeared to be. Over the centuries, the continent has remained a mystery, its true purpose, history, and significance largely unknown to the general public. One of the first things that sets Antarctica apart from other regions of the world is its sheer isolation. Sitting at the southernmost point of the Earth, surrounded by frigid waters and extreme weather conditions, it is naturally shielded from the scrutiny of the outside world. But this isolation is not just geographical, it's also political. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, placed the entire continent under international agreement, stipulating that it would be used exclusively for peaceful scientific research. The treaty froze all territorial claims and prohibited any military activity, ensuring that no one nation could lay claim to the land beneath the ice. On the surface, this agreement seems like a noble gesture, promoting international cooperation and preserving the pristine nature of the continent. Yet beneath this veneer of cooperation lies a far more complex story. The Antarctic Treaty may have been signed to prevent conflict, but over time, it has become a barrier to the truth, hiding secrets and concealing agendas that have been decades, if not centuries, in the making. While the treaty has allowed for the establishment of scientific research stations, it has also created loopholes that certain powers and corporations have exploited. The treaty itself, though designed to promote peace, could very well be the shield behind which covert operations, military expeditions, and even resource extraction take place, all under the guise of research and exploration. The idea that Antarctica is somehow exempt from the global political battles that shape the rest of the world is, in itself, a myth. Antarctica's geopolitical importance cannot be overstated, especially when viewed through the lens of resources. Beneath its frozen surface lies a treasure trove of untapped materials, precious minerals, rare earth elements, and even freshwater reserves. As the global population grows and the demand for these resources intensifies, the competition to control Antarctica's vast wealth becomes more urgent. But here's where it gets murky. Who exactly is controlling these resources? Who stands to benefit from them? And why has the world's focus on the continent remained so narrowly fixed on scientific research? The Antarctic Treaty, which supposedly keeps the continent off limits for any form of territorial expansion or military intervention, has been interpreted by some experts as a sophisticated tool for controlling information and preventing the public from learning the true stakes of the continent. Even the most remote regions of Antarctica are far from untouched, and many researchers and explorers have noted anomalies in their studies. Unexplained structures, large areas of heightened electromagnetic activity, and even signs of ancient civilizations buried beneath the ice. These discoveries, however, remain locked away, classified, and tightly controlled. In some cases, research that threatens to reveal too much has been swiftly shut down, with governments and organizations making sure to silence those who try to share what they have uncovered. To truly understand Antarctica's hidden significance, we must look at its history, not just its geography. When European explorers first set foot on the continent in the early 19th century, Antarctica was largely a blank space on the world's maps. The continent had been known only through the legends and theories of early cartographers who speculated about its existence. Yet despite its remoteness, the idea of Antarctica as a land of untold riches began to capture the imagination of explorers and adventurers. Expeditions were mounted to discover what lay beneath its vast glaciers, and in many cases, the discoveries were not just scientific, but deeply political. Take, for example, the famous expeditions of the early 20th century, which marked the first serious forays into the Antarctic interior. The British explorer Robert Falcon Scott, in particular, is remembered for his ill-fated journey to the South Pole in 1911, a journey that ended in tragedy. But what is less widely known is that Scott's expeditions were funded by both the British government and a number of corporate interests. The search for scientific knowledge was certainly a driving force, but there was also a clear political and economic agenda. Antarctica was seen as a potential land rich in resources. Scott's expedition, though unsuccessful in its primary objective, laid the groundwork for future missions to Antarctica, which would eventually bring about the realization that the continent's strategic value was immense. This brings us to a crucial point in the history of Antarctica, its militarization. The post-World War II period saw an increase in interest in the southernmost continent, as global powers began to jockey for control of strategic locations. In the aftermath of the war, Antarctica's strategic importance became more evident, and nations began to set up military and scientific outposts. These were ostensibly for research, but the military presence was also undeniable. The Cold War was in full swing, and both the United States and the Soviet Union saw Antarctica as a key location for intelligence gathering and strategic positioning. The U.S., for example, established a permanent presence in Antarctica with the creation of McMurdo Station in 1956, which became a hub for military and scientific operations. Though the Antarctic Treaty had been signed just a year earlier, its provisions were often overlooked or outright ignored by both superpowers, who saw Antarctica as an important strategic battleground in the larger conflict of the Cold War. It was during this time that something truly curious began to take shape in Antarctica: the increasing secrecy surrounding the continent's true importance. On the surface, Antarctica was portrayed as a place of peace and cooperation, a land dedicated to scientific discovery and environmental protection. However, beneath this facade, covert military operations were taking place, and the exploitation of Antarctica's resources had already begun. The continent's natural wealth was too great to ignore, and as the ice receded in certain areas, it became clear that the continent's strategic importance could not be overstated. Even the United States, long considered the champion of the Antarctic Treaty, was involved in secret operations that violated the spirit of the agreement. While the focus remained on scientific research, the reality of what was happening in Antarctica was far more complex. Throughout the late 20th and early 21st centuries, there were reports of strange activities taking place in remote areas of the continent, places that were supposedly off-limits to human activity. Satellite images began to reveal anomalies that hinted at hidden structures beneath the ice. Researchers studying the land, sometimes under extreme secrecy, began to uncover evidence of what appeared to be ancient ruins or advanced technologies that should not have been there. What were these structures? Were they remnants of a forgotten civilization, or were they something even more mysterious, perhaps a site of alien technology? These questions remain unanswered, largely because the information was suppressed or classified, hidden from the public eye by those who had the power to control it. In more recent years, the situation has only grown more intense. As climate change accelerates, Antarctica is experiencing a rapid melting of its ice sheets, exposing areas that were once completely inaccessible. This has drawn even more attention from both governments and corporations, eager to capitalize on the newfound access to resources. There are already reports of covert operations, as companies and military forces alike scramble to stake their claims on this newly accessible land. The question is no longer whether Antarctica will be exploited, but how and by whom. In this context, Antarctica is more than just a frozen wasteland. It is a battleground of competing interests, each vying for control of the continent's vast wealth. Its role in the future of global power dynamics is undeniable, and as its secrets slowly begin to surface, it is becoming clear that what lies beneath the ice is far more valuable and far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. As the world's understanding of geography evolved, so too did the maps that charted the unknown corners of the Earth. But what if some of the most ancient maps contain information that contradicts everything we thought we knew about our planet, and more specifically, Antarctica? The mystery begins with the famous Piri Reis map, a cartographic enigma that has baffled historians and scholars for centuries. This map, drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, depicts the coast of Antarctica, a landmass that was believed to be undiscovered and hidden beneath layers of ice. What makes this map so perplexing is that it shows the continent in remarkable detail, with a coastline that aligns with modern satellite imagery, despite the fact that Antarctica was not officially discovered until 1820, some 300 years later. The Piri Reis map, made from a combination of ancient sources, including those from the Greeks and even the Egyptians, defies our understanding of historical exploration. How could a 16th century cartographer have such accurate depictions of Antarctica, especially considering that the continent was supposedly hidden beneath miles of ice? The prevailing theory is that Piri Reis based his map on a series of earlier, much older sources, maps from civilizations long lost to history, maps that contain knowledge of Antarctica's geography, its coastline, and possibly even its topography before it was covered in ice. These maps have never been found, raising a compelling question. Did ancient civilizations possess knowledge of the world that we have since forgotten? There are those who argue that the Piri Reis map is not an anomaly at all, but part of a larger body of lost knowledge, pointing to similar instances where ancient maps depict places and features that should not have been accessible to their creators. For instance, the Orontius Phineas map, created in 1531, shows Antarctica with an even greater level of precision than the Piri Reis map. What is even more remarkable is that both of these maps depict Antarctica as though it were not covered by ice, suggesting that they were based on sources that predate the last ice age, or that they were privy to knowledge about the continent's climate and geography long before it became frozen over. These maps, when viewed in context with other ancient geographical references, suggest that knowledge of the Earth's true landscape might have been passed down from an advanced civilization, one whose legacy was wiped out long before our recorded history began. In addition to these maps, there are numerous references to Antarctica found in ancient texts and myths, which add another layer of intrigue to the question of what Antarctica truly represents. Some researchers point to stories of Atlantis, a civilization described by the Greek philosopher Plato as existing in a far-flung location before it was swallowed by the sea. According to these myths, Atlantis was home to a people with advanced knowledge and technology, and the island was said to have been rich in resources that could have included the very minerals and materials hidden beneath Antarctica's ice. If the stories of Atlantis are to be believed, it is not difficult to imagine a scenario in which the civilization flourished in a temperate Antarctica, long before the ice sheets claimed the land. Could the knowledge of this civilization have been passed down through ancient maps and other cryptic records? The concept of lost civilizations possessing knowledge of Antarctica is further supported by a number of unusual discoveries and unexplained phenomena found in the region. Throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, there have been occasional reports from scientists and explorers claiming to have found artifacts that seem out of place in the frozen wilderness. Some of these artifacts include unusual stone formations, ancient-looking tools, and even seemingly man-made structures buried deep beneath the ice. In particular, the findings of researchers using ground-penetrating radar have revealed mysterious patterns deep within the Antarctic ice, which resemble the shapes of ancient cities, buildings, and roadways, features that would be inconceivable in a region known for its inhospitable environment. One of the most striking pieces of evidence comes from the satellite images of Antarctica's coastline, which seem to show a series of perfectly straight lines running through the ice. These lines, which some have speculated are man-made, appear to resemble ancient roadways or avenues, suggesting that there may have been an advanced civilization once thriving in Antarctica, far before the continent was frozen over. Some even believe these lines could be the remnants of lost cities, potentially linked to the same civilization that created the Piri Reis and Orontius Phineas maps. Adding further intrigue to the matter are the findings from researchers studying ancient Egyptian history. The Egyptians, while known for their seafaring and navigational abilities, were also highly advanced in their understanding of astronomy and the Earth's geographical features. Some theorists suggest that the Egyptians, along with other ancient civilizations, may have had access to far-reaching trade routes or methods of navigation that allowed them to travel to Antarctica long before the ice began to engulf the land. Could the Egyptians have been one of the early cultures that knew of Antarctica's true geography? Could they have used maps that depicted a much warmer, ice-free continent? Beyond maps, there is also a long-standing interest in the idea that Antarctica could hold the key to understanding the ancient history of humanity itself. According to certain fringe theories, Antarctica could be the site of a forgotten civilization that predates even the earliest known societies of Sumer and Egypt. Could this civilization have been the source of the maps that show Antarctica's true shape and coastline? If so, what happened to them? And why did the knowledge of their existence vanish into the mists of time? These questions lead to a tantalizing possibility. What if the ancient maps were not just depicting a lost civilization's knowledge of the Earth, but also a warning of something far more dangerous? Some theorists believe that the advanced civilization that once inhabited Antarctica may have been wiped out by a global cataclysm, a catastrophe that caused the ice to form and buried the civilization's records and knowledge beneath layers of ice and snow. This theory, which draws from both geological and mythological sources, suggests that the ancient maps of Antarctica are not simply relics of exploration, but cryptic symbols of civilization's rise and fall. There are even more esoteric theories that tie these ancient maps to hidden knowledge that has been preserved by secret societies throughout history. The Freemasons, for example, have long been associated with secret knowledge and hidden truths about the world. Some researchers speculate that the Freemasons and other similar organizations may have access to ancient documents and maps that contain information about Antarctica's true history and significance. Could these secret societies have been guarding the knowledge of lost civilizations, waiting for the right moment to reveal what lies beneath the ice? The mystery deepens when one considers the possibility that these ancient maps were not just created by explorers, but by some form of advanced civilization with access to lost technologies. Could these maps have been drawn using a method of measurement or observation that is now lost to us? Could there have been an ancient society that possessed technological or navigational tools far beyond what we would expect from the time period in which these maps were created? As the evidence continues to pile up, the story of Antarctica's hidden history only becomes more intriguing. Ancient maps, strange anomalies, and unexplained phenomena all point to the same conclusion: that Antarctica is not the barren, uncharted wilderness that it seems. Rather, it may be the last remaining piece of an ancient puzzle, a missing chapter in the history of humanity that has been covered up by layers of ice, both physical and metaphorical. What knowledge did these early explorers possess, and how did they come by it? What secrets does Antarctica hold, and why has it been kept so carefully hidden? The answers to these questions may lie not just beneath the ice, but in the ancient maps and records that have been lost to time, maps that, if decoded, could reveal the forgotten history of our world. During the tumultuous years of World War II, as the world grappled with the immense destruction caused by global conflict, a seemingly bizarre chapter in history unfolded in the farthest reaches of the earth. While the Nazi regime was obsessed with expanding its influence in Europe, a strange and lesser-known expedition took place in the icy deserts of Antarctica, an expedition that would later fuel conspiracy theories and speculation for decades to come. The story of a Nazi's Antarctic ambitions is one of secrecy, speculation, and dark intrigue, intertwining military strategy with occult beliefs and a thirst for power that stretched to the ends of the earth. In 1938, Nazi Germany, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, initiated a series of secretive expeditions to Antarctica. The operation, known as Operation High Jump, has been the subject of much debate, as its true purpose remains shrouded in mystery. The Nazi expedition to Antarctica, led by Admiral Karl Donitz, was cloaked in the guise of a scientific research mission. However, some historians and conspiracy theorists argue that the expedition was much more than a simple scientific endeavor. It was part of a larger scheme to claim a piece of the frozen continent, which, at the time, was largely unexplored and inaccessible. But what exactly did they hope to find in Antarctica? Could there have been hidden treasures, ancient knowledge, or even secret technologies waiting to be uncovered beneath the ice? The Nazis were notorious for their fascination with the occult and the supernatural. Under Hitler's regime, a variety of esoteric beliefs gained prominence, with key figures like Heinrich Himmler obsessively pursuing theories of hidden power and ancient knowledge. Hitler himself was drawn to the idea of lost civilizations, with a particular interest in the idea of a master race that could trace its origins back to ancient, mystical lands. The Nazis believed in the existence of a hidden world beyond the visible one, and many of their expeditions were driven by the belief that they could uncover these ancient secrets. Among these expeditions was the Antarctic mission, which some theorists believe was designed not only to claim territory, but to explore the possibility of uncovering mystical artifacts, ancient technologies, or even evidence of extraterrestrial involvement. The Nazi Antarctic expedition has been surrounded by an aura of mystery from the outset. Some researchers argue that the Nazis were drawn to Antarctica because of rumors of lost civilizations that might have once inhabited the continent. Civilizations with advanced knowledge that could give the Nazis the technological edge they sought. One popular theory suggests that the Nazis were searching for evidence of an ancient, technologically advanced civilization that once thrived in Antarctica before it was buried by ice. This theory posits that these ancient beings may have possessed knowledge or technology that could change the course of history, and that the Nazis, obsessed with the idea of superiority, believed they could unlock this power to further their own goals. If such a civilization had existed, could the Nazis have uncovered something that would forever alter our understanding of the past? Further fueling this theory are claims that the Nazis discovered evidence of strange artifacts or technologies during their Antarctic exploration. Reports from some of the expedition's participants, as well as post-war testimonies, hint at the possibility that the Nazis stumbled upon objects or structures that defied conventional understanding. There are those who believe that the expedition found more than just land and ice, that they discovered remnants of ancient, otherworldly technology, possibly even extraterrestrial artifacts hidden beneath the frozen surface. Although these claims remain unverified, the idea that the Nazis were searching for such artifacts adds an intriguing dimension to the mystery of their Antarctic venture. One of the most compelling aspects of the Nazi Antarctic expedition is its connection to the larger Nazi ideology, which was steeped in occult beliefs. The Nazis were fascinated by the idea of an ancient, mystical force that could empower their cause. The Thule Society, an occult group that influenced Nazi ideology, believed that the Aryan race had ancient ties to powerful, lost civilizations. Some theorists believe that the Nazis, under the guidance of Himmler and other top officials, were intent on finding evidence of these civilizations in Antarctica, believing that they would find ancient secrets that could help them fulfill their vision of world domination. Himmler himself was deeply involved in occult practices and was reportedly obsessed with the idea of finding relics or hidden knowledge that could elevate the Nazis to a new level of power. The notion that the Nazis were searching for more than just territory in Antarctica gains some credibility when you examine the bizarre nature of the expedition. The expedition, which took place in 1938 and was followed by more research and exploration in the years leading up to World War II, was not just a simple exploration of uncharted land. The Nazis were also known to have sent a number of expeditions to other far-flung parts of the globe in search of mystical artifacts, ancient symbols, and lost knowledge. In fact, many of the Nazis' most famous occult expeditions, such as those to Tibet and South America, were motivated by the desire to uncover hidden, esoteric knowledge that could bolster their political and military power. It seems plausible that their expedition to Antarctica was part of this larger obsession with finding the secrets of the ancient world. After the war, there were reports of high-ranking Nazi officials fleeing to South America, allegedly carrying with them valuable information and artifacts from their secret expeditions. Some conspiracy theorists argue that the Nazis didn't just leave behind a legacy of destruction. They may have taken with them ancient relics and knowledge from Antarctica. In fact, some believe that the Nazis set up secret bases in Antarctica after the war, using them as a refuge from the Allies. These bases, which were supposedly hidden beneath the ice or in remote regions, are said to have been part of a larger, ongoing Nazi operation to access the hidden knowledge and technology they had uncovered during their early expeditions. These claims, though largely speculative, add another layer of mystery to the story of the Nazis' Antarctic exploration. What is perhaps the most chilling element of this story is the possibility that the Nazis were not only searching for lost knowledge or ancient civilizations, but were also seeking to harness the power of extraterrestrial technology. Throughout the war, the Nazis displayed an interest in technology that seemed far ahead of its time. From their development of the V-2 rocket to their experiments with advanced aircraft and weaponry, the Nazis were clearly pushing the boundaries of science and engineering. But could they have been experimenting with something far more mysterious, something that came from beyond Earth? The idea that the Nazis were in contact with extraterrestrial beings, or that they discovered alien technology in Antarctica, is a theory that continues to circulate among conspiracy enthusiasts and researchers. While there is no concrete evidence to support this claim, the secrecy surrounding the Nazi expedition and the subsequent disappearance of key personnel adds an air of intrigue to the theory. In the aftermath of the war, the story of Nazi involvement in Antarctica became increasingly clouded in myth and speculation. The Allies, after defeating the Nazi regime, launched their own expeditions to Antarctica, but they were largely focused on scientific research and establishing territorial claims. However, there are those who believe that the true purpose of these post-war expeditions was to investigate what the Nazis had left behind in Antarctica, whether it was hidden bases, ancient technology, or something even more elusive. The idea that the Nazis may have discovered something truly extraordinary in Antarctica, only to have it covered up by the Allies, remains a tantalizing mystery that continues to fascinate researchers and conspiracy theorists alike. In the end, the story of the Nazis in Antarctica remains an enigma, a tale of hidden ambitions, occult beliefs, and secret expeditions to the ends of the earth in search of power, knowledge, and perhaps something more. Whether they were truly searching for ancient artifacts, lost civilizations, or extraterrestrial technologies is a question that may never be fully answered. But the legacy of their Antarctic ambitions continues to haunt the collective imagination, reminding us that the most chilling secrets of the past may lie frozen beneath the ice, waiting to be uncovered. The mysteries of Antarctica only deepen as we begin to unravel the strange and uncharted history of its involvement in the Cold War era. While the entire world was fixated on the geopolitical tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, another, much more secretive race was taking place in the icy wilderness of Antarctica. Beneath the surface of global diplomacy, espionage, and the scientific community, there were covert operations happening in the frozen continent that remain largely unknown to the public. Antarctica, it turns out, was not just a barren and unclaimed land. It was the stage for a silent, invisible war between the two superpowers, a war fought in the shadows, beyond the reach of the world's eyes. When the Cold War began to intensify, the geopolitical landscape shifted dramatically. The United States and the Soviet Union, locked in a battle for ideological dominance, engaged in an arms race that reached new heights, with nuclear weapons and espionage at the forefront of their rivalry. Yet while the world focused on the standoff between the two nations, Antarctica became an increasingly important site of conflict, though in a very different way. Both sides saw the frozen continent as a strategic asset, a place that, if controlled, could provide immense advantages. Antarctica, with its vast expanse of untouched land and remoteness from the world's political centers, offered an ideal setting for secretive military and scientific operations. With both the U.S. and the USSR looking to establish a foothold in Antarctica, the competition for dominance on the continent was intense. In 1959, the Antarctic Treaty was signed by 12 countries, ostensibly to preserve the continent for peaceful scientific research and environmental protection. The treaty froze territorial claims, prohibited military activities, and emphasized that the region would be used for cooperative scientific endeavors. On the surface, the treaty seemed to be a diplomatic success, a testament to international cooperation. However, beneath this seemingly harmless agreement, the reality was far different. Despite the provisions of the treaty, the Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union did not subside. Instead, it took a more clandestine form. Both nations established research stations on the continent, claiming them as neutral ground for scientific study. But in reality, these stations were often used for military and intelligence purposes. The U.S. quickly set up McMurdo Station, which became a hub for American operations in Antarctica. Initially designed as a base for scientific research, McMurdo soon evolved into a key military outpost, serving as a launch point for a range of covert operations. Its strategic location, just a short distance from the Soviet Union's southernmost territories, made it a crucial asset in the U.S. Cold War strategy. The U.S. government invested heavily in expanding its presence on the continent, building a network of research stations and monitoring posts. On the surface, these outposts were framed as being dedicated solely to scientific exploration, but in reality, they serve as high-tech listening posts for monitoring Soviet activities in the Southern Hemisphere. They were also sites for testing experimental weapons and technologies, some of which were designed to exploit the unique environment of Antarctica, such as radar systems and surveillance satellites. While the United States was busy expanding its operations, the Soviet Union was equally determined to maintain its own presence in Antarctica. The Soviets established their first research station in 1956, and over the next several decades, they continued to build and maintain a network of stations across the continent. These Soviet outposts, like their American counterparts, were publicly advertised as sites for scientific research. However, it is believed that many of them were also involved in military reconnaissance and espionage. The Soviet Union, in particular, was keen on gathering intelligence from the region, and it is thought that they used their Antarctic stations to monitor U.S. activities in the South Pacific and the southernmost parts of the Indian Ocean. As the Cold War raged on, both superpowers used Antarctica as a strategic base for launching intelligence operations against one another, all while remaining technically within the boundaries of the Antarctic Treaty. The unique environment of Antarctica provided the perfect backdrop for these covert operations. The continent's harsh, inhospitable conditions made it an ideal location for testing new technologies and conducting research that might have been deemed too dangerous or politically sensitive to conduct elsewhere. For example, both the U.S. and the USSR conducted numerous nuclear tests in Antarctica, often under the guise of scientific experimentation. These tests were designed not only to develop new weapons, but also to test the effects of nuclear radiation on the environment and the human body in extreme conditions. The isolated nature of Antarctica ensured that these experiments could be conducted without attracting international scrutiny, and the remote location of the continent allowed both sides to carry out their operations without interference from the rest of the world. In addition to nuclear testing, both the U.S. and the Soviet Union used Antarctica as a testing ground for advanced technologies. The extreme cold and isolation of the continent provided an ideal environment for experimenting with everything from missile systems to satellite technology. The harsh conditions also present an opportunity for both sides to test the durability and resilience of their equipment, including vehicles and machinery, which could then be used in future military operations. It is believed that some of the most advanced surveillance systems of the Cold War were developed and tested in Antarctica, including high-altitude radar systems capable of tracking aircraft and submarines. The information gathered from these tests was crucial to both superpowers as they continued their arms race, constantly searching for new ways to outmaneuver one another. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the Cold War activities in Antarctica is the continued presence of secret military operations and research that has never been fully acknowledged or explained. Despite the apparent focus on scientific cooperation, there have been numerous reports of military aircraft, ships, and submarines operating in and around Antarctica, sometimes in areas where no official research stations exist. Whispers of secret military bases buried deep within the Antarctic ice continue to circulate, with some suggesting that these bases are not only used for research, but are also sites of experimentation with new weapon systems, and possibly even the development of technologies that could alter the course of the Cold War itself. One particularly strange aspect of the Cold War in Antarctica involves the constant surveillance of the continent by both sides. While the Antarctic Treaty forbids military activity, there have been numerous reports of reconnaissance flights by both the U.S. and the Soviet Union, often involving high-tech aircraft designed to monitor one another's activities. These flights, which took place under the radar of international oversight, were part of a larger effort to maintain control over the continent and its strategic importance. Both sides, it seems, were not just interested in the scientific value of Antarctica, but in its potential as a military stronghold. In more recent years, the military interest in Antarctica has only grown. With the changing political climate and new threats emerging on a global stage, both the U.S. and Russia continue to maintain a significant presence on the continent, though under the guise of scientific cooperation. But behind the curtain of diplomacy and environmental protections, the reality is far more complex. Some experts believe that the geopolitical importance of Antarctica is poised to become even more pronounced as the planet's resources continue to dwindle and climate change makes previously inaccessible areas more accessible. With its vast, untapped resources, Antarctica is becoming an increasingly important strategic location, and the power struggle over its future could well escalate in the coming decades. The Cold War's shadow still lingers over Antarctica, and its legacy is one of secrecy, manipulation, and hidden agendas. While the world focuses on the environmental threats to the continent, there's an entirely different battle taking place beneath the ice, one that involves not just resources but also control, power, and influence. In the decades since the Cold War's end, many of the operations and activities that took place in Antarctica during those years have been buried in secrecy, hidden away behind layers of classified documents and military reports. Yet the truth about what really happened in Antarctica during the Cold War remains elusive, tantalizingly out of reach, and increasingly important as the world's future on this frozen frontier looms ever closer. As the world grapples with the shifting dynamics of climate change, one of the most pressing concerns is the impact this has on Antarctica and the global systems that rely on its stability. The ice sheets of Antarctica hold an enormous volume of fresh water, which, if melted, could raise global sea levels by over 60 meters. While the immediate effects of climate change are already being felt across the world, from rising temperatures to unpredictable weather patterns, Antarctica and its glaciers remain one of the most crucial elements in the fight against environmental collapse. Yet, beneath the surface of climate models and scientific research, there lies a darker, more complex narrative that few are willing to openly discuss. The possibility that the region is not just a passive victim of global warming, but an active player in a geopolitical struggle for resources, power, and influence in the years to come. The effects of climate change on Antarctica are undeniable. The once solid ice sheets are beginning to fracture and melt at an alarming rate. Satellite images show enormous cracks appearing in glaciers, and in some areas, entire sections of ice shelves are collapsing into the ocean. As the ice melts, it is not just the loss of habitat for unique ecosystems that concern scientists. There's also the potential for destabilization of the oceanic currents that govern global climate systems. The Antarctic ice sheets act as a stabilizing force for the world's oceans, regulating the flow of cold and warm water. The melting of these ice sheets could alter oceanic circulation patterns, triggering a cascade of environmental changes that we are only beginning to understand. The implications for agriculture, weather patterns, and even global economic stability are profound, and yet the discussion remains largely academic. The true geopolitical stakes surrounding Antarctica and the resources hidden beneath its ice are much more complex and urgent than most realize. Antarctica's growing vulnerability is also tied to its position as a treasure trove of untapped resources. While the continent has long been seen as a barren wasteland of ice, new geological surveys and advancements in technology have revealed that beneath the frozen surface lies a wealth of untapped natural resources, precious metals, rare earth elements, and vast stores of fresh water that could be pivotal in the face of an increasingly resource-hungry world. As the global demand for these resources escalates, so too does the scramble for control over the continent. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, was meant to preserve the continent for peaceful scientific research and protect it from exploitation. Yet as the years pass and climate change continues to thaw the once frozen landscape, the reality is becoming impossible to ignore. Antarctica is not simply an isolated research facility. It is a battleground for the future of resources and power. The competition to control Antarctica's resources is already underway. In recent years, there have been increasing reports of countries and corporations covertly positioning themselves to stake claims on portions of the continent. While the Antarctic Treaty prohibits military presence and territorial claims, it does not account for the use of private companies or corporations to carry out resource extraction in a gray zone. With new technologies that allow for the exploration and extraction of resources beneath the ice, major powers are looking at Antarctica as an opportunity to secure the future of their economies and energy needs. The looming question is whether countries like the United States, China, Russia, and even large multinational corporations will push the boundaries of the Antarctic Treaty, eventually challenging its limitations and forcing the world into a new geopolitical reality. For instance, China's growing presence in Antarctica has become a focal point of concern for many nations. In recent years, China has expanded its research bases on the continent, and many observers believe that this is part of a broader strategy to gain a foothold in Antarctica's vast untapped resources. China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, which seeks to extend its global influence through infrastructure development and resource extraction, may well extend to Antarctica. This raises the troubling possibility that China, with its already significant influence over the global supply chain, could control access to critical resources in Antarctica, further tipping the balance of power in its favor. Similarly, Russia's interest in Antarctica is tied not only to its scientific curiosity, but also to its desire for strategic control over the southern hemisphere. Russia has long claimed the right to control the southernmost reaches of the continent, and its military presence in nearby regions like the Arctic has drawn attention to the possibility that it may try to expand its footprint in Antarctica as well. Russia's history of military expansion and its recent push for dominance in the Arctic raises concerns about its intentions in the southernmost part of the world. The United States, while being a proponent of the Antarctic Treaty, has also ramped up its military and scientific presence in the region. The establishment of bases, such as McMurdo Station and other research facilities, is not just about scientific exploration. It also serves as a strategic position for the U.S. to monitor and, if necessary, control access to Antarctica's resources. The U.S. has long viewed Antarctica through a geopolitical lens, and the idea that the continent could one day be a major source of critical minerals and freshwater makes a key point of interest for American policy. Even though the Antarctic Treaty limits military activity, the U.S. maintains a significant footprint on the continent, which some experts believe could pave the way for future territorial claims if the geopolitical climate shifts. One of the most contentious aspects of the scramble for Antarctica's resources is the issue of freshwater. Antarctica is home to the majority of the Earth's freshwater reserves, locked away in its vast ice sheets. As climate change depletes freshwater supplies in other parts of the world, the demand for clean, drinkable water is growing exponentially. If the ice sheets continue to melt, the potential for freshwater reserve in Antarctica to become a lifeline for millions of people becomes a reality. However, who will control these resources? The international community has long regarded Antarctica as a shared space for peaceful research, but as the melting continues, the question of ownership and access will inevitably surface. It is not difficult to imagine a future in which countries or corporations with access to the technology to extract freshwater from Antarctica's ice could monopolize this precious resource, exacerbating geopolitical tensions around the globe. Adding to this complexity is the issue of environmental degradation. While the Antarctic Treaty was designed to preserve the region's pristine nature, the pressures from resource extraction, tourism, and military presence are already beginning to show their effects. The impacts of climate change on the continent are only the tip of the iceberg. Scientists have warned that continued human activity in Antarctica could further destabilize the delicate ecosystems that exist there. Research stations, fuel dumps, and other forms of infrastructure leave behind environmental footprints that, over time, may have a profound impact on the region's fragile environment. The exploitation of its resources, whether from minerals or freshwater, could further accelerate this process, potentially causing irreversible damage to the region. Yet the geopolitical implications of resource extraction in Antarctica are not limited to environmental concerns. The quest for control over the continent is also driven by economic factors. The global economy's dependence on rare earth elements, vital minerals for everything from electronics to renewable energy, makes Antarctica a key area of interest for major industrial powers. As these resources become increasingly scarce elsewhere in the world, the potential to access them in Antarctica will be a game-changer for any nation or corporation that secures a foothold. The scramble for Antarctica could lead to a new form of imperialism, one driven not by territorial conquest, but by control over resources that are vital to the survival of future economies. The debate surrounding Antarctica's future is not just about resources. It is about the future of the planet itself. The continent has long been a symbol of international cooperation and scientific discovery. But as climate change continues to reshape the world, Antarctica may no longer remain the neutral space it once was. With the melting ice revealing valuable resources, and with global powers looking to gain an upper hand, the peaceful ideals embodied by the Antarctic Treaty are being increasingly challenged. Whether the continent will remain a shared space for scientific inquiry or become the next front in the battle for global supremacy remains to be seen. What is certain, however, is that Antarctica's fate will be one of the defining issues of the 21st century, as nations and corporations alike seek to secure their place in a world where resources are more valuable than ever. As the geopolitical and environmental dynamics surrounding Antarctica continue to evolve, one cannot ignore the possibility that the frozen continent harbors more than just natural resources and scientific mysteries. Over the years, a growing number of theories have surfaced that suggest Antarctica could be hiding a much darker and more profound secret, one that dates back to ancient times. Could there be evidence of a lost civilization buried beneath the ice? Could the continent hold keys to understanding humanity's origins, or perhaps even its future? These questions have given rise to a range of speculative ideas, many of which challenge the conventional narrative of history and our understanding of the world. The idea of a lost civilization in Antarctica is not entirely new. Ancient myths and stories from cultures around the world often speak of advanced civilizations that once flourished but mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind only ruins, artifacts, and cryptic messages. The most famous of these tales is the story of Atlantis, a powerful and technologically advanced civilization said to have existed thousands of years ago, only to be swallowed by the ocean in a cataclysmic event. The tale, as recounted by the Greek philosopher Plato, describes Atlantis as a land of immense wealth and power, where advanced technology and knowledge flourished. But what if Atlantis wasn't an island submerged in the Mediterranean, as most scholars believe, but a far more distant and forgotten civilization, one located in Antarctica? Supporters of this theory point to the possibility that Antarctica, once a much warmer and more habitable landmass, could have supported life in ancient times. In fact, geological evidence suggests that the continent was once lush with vegetation and teeming with wildlife, long before it became the frozen wasteland we know today. If this is the case, could it be that an advanced civilization once lived in Antarctica, only to be buried under miles of ice after a dramatic shift in the Earth's climate? This theory proposes that, like Atlantis, the civilization that thrived on the continent was wiped out in a global cataclysm, its records and artifacts lost to time and the forces of nature. The possibility that Antarctica may have been home to an ancient civilization is further bolstered by the existence of enigmatic structures and formations that have been discovered on and around the continent. Over the years, satellite imagery and aerial reconnaissance have revealed strange, seemingly man-made shapes beneath the ice, prompting speculation about what they might be. These formations, which resemble ancient ruins, pyramids, and even massive artificial structures, have been the subject of intense debate. Some believe that these formations are natural in origin, created by the shifting of glaciers and the forces of erosion. However, others argue that they are too symmetrical, too precisely arranged, to be the result of geological processes alone. One of the most famous and controversial discoveries is the so-called Pyramid of Antarctica, a pyramid-like structure that appears to rise from the ice in the Queen Maud Land region. The shape of the structure, with its flat sides and sharp angles, bears a striking resemblance to the pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, leading some researchers to propose that it could be an ancient monument constructed by a lost civilization. While mainstream scientists dismiss this idea as a product of pareidolia, the tendency to see patterns in random shapes, proponents of the theory point to the eerie similarity between the structure in Antarctica and known pyramids elsewhere in the world. If such a monument does exist, what does it suggest about the civilization that may have built it? Could it be that this lost society possessed knowledge and architectural skills far beyond what we currently understand? In addition to the pyramid-like structures, there have been reports of other strange formations in Antarctica, including what some researchers describe as roads or pathways that seem to run for miles beneath the ice. These lines, which appear to be perfectly straight and well-defined, raise the possibility that the continent was once home to a sophisticated infrastructure, perhaps even a vast network of cities. The idea of roads and urban centers buried beneath the ice suggests that Antarctica may have once been a thriving hub of human activity, with a civilization far older than any we currently know. If such a civilization existed, what happened to it? Could it have been destroyed by a natural disaster, such as an ice age or a cataclysmic event, leaving no trace of its existence except for these mysterious remnants beneath the ice? While these theories are certainly speculative, they're not entirely without merit. Throughout history, there have been numerous instances of lost civilizations whose remains were discovered long after their existence had been forgotten. The ancient city of Troy, once thought to be purely mythical, was uncovered in the 19th century, proving that ancient stories and legends often contain kernels of truth. Similarly, the discovery of the Mayan civilization's vast cities and intricate knowledge of astronomy and mathematics has only come to light in recent decades. Could Antarctica be hiding a similar secret, one that challenges everything we think we know about human history? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Antarctica mystery is the idea that these lost civilizations might have had access to knowledge or technology that was far more advanced than anything we currently possess. Some proponents of the lost civilization theory suggest that the beings who once inhabited Antarctica may have had access to energy sources, propulsion technologies, or even communication methods that were lost over time. The discovery of these technologies could revolutionize our understanding of science and history. Could the advanced civilizations of ancient Antarctica have known how to harness the energy of the Earth itself? Could they have had the ability to manipulate weather, control natural forces, or even access other dimensions of existence? These ideas, though speculative, tap into a broader fascination with lost knowledge and hidden wisdom, a recurring theme in many ancient cultures and modern conspiracies. There's also the possibility that the ancient civilizations of Antarctica were not human at all. Some theorists propose that extraterrestrial beings may have been responsible for the advanced technologies and structures found beneath the ice. The idea that aliens could have visited Earth in ancient times and interacted with or influenced early human civilizations is a concept that has gained traction in recent years, especially in the realm of ancient astronaut theories. According to this view, Antarctica may have served as a base or landing site for extraterrestrial visitors who brought with them knowledge and technology that far outstripped anything humanity had ever seen. This idea is supported by the countless depictions of gods or beings from the stars found in the myths and religious texts of ancient cultures around the world. Could these stories be allegorical representations of encounters with advanced extraterrestrial civilizations? And if so, what could we learn from the remnants of these interactions buried beneath the ice? While much of this remains speculative, the increasing interest in Antarctica's hidden secrets has spurred a number of expeditions and research projects aimed at uncovering the truth. Governments, private organizations, and even independent researchers are using cutting-edge technology, including ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and deep drilling equipment, to peer beneath the continent's thick ice sheets. What they are discovering is both fascinating and perplexing. In some areas, scientists have found signs of what appears to be ancient terrain, with distinct features that suggest the presence of rivers, lakes, and even mountains that may have once been part of a much more temperate environment. In recent years, There have been reports of previously undiscovered underground lakes and ecosystems beneath Antarctica's ice sheets. These discoveries have raised the possibility that microbial life, possibly even remnants of ancient life, could still exist beneath the ice, preserved in a state of suspended animation for millions of years. If life can survive in such extreme conditions, could there be more significant remnants of ancient civilizations or even technologies hidden beneath the ice? The search for answers is ongoing, and as technology advances, the possibility of uncovering Antarctica's deepest secrets becomes ever more tantalizing. In conclusion, while the idea of a lost civilization in Antarctica remains firmly in the realm of speculation, the evidence that supports such theories continues to grow. Whether it is strange structures found beneath the ice, the possibility of ancient terrain, or the many mysteries that continue to surround the continent's past, there is no denying that Antarctica holds a wealth of untold secrets. The frozen continent may one day reveal its hidden history, offering us a glimpse into a forgotten chapter of human, or even extraterrestrial, history. Until then, the mystery of what lies beneath the ice continues to captivate the imagination, leaving us to wonder what truths may still be hidden in the frozen depths of Antarctica. In recent years, as global interest in Antarctica has intensified, a new layer of secrecy has emerged. With a vast, largely unexplored region at the planet's southernmost point, Antarctica holds the promise of not just untapped natural resources, but a wealth of mysteries, some so strange and elusive that they challenge the very fabric of what we know about the history of our world. Among these mysteries, perhaps none is as controversial and intriguing as the theory that hidden within the ice may be evidence of extraterrestrial involvement or ancient alien technology. While mainstream science largely dismisses such claims as outlandish, a growing body of conspiracy theories suggests that what we are told about Antarctica may only be the surface of a far deeper, more perplexing reality. Throughout history, the idea that humanity has been visited by extraterrestrial beings has been a recurring theme, woven into ancient texts, mythologies, and religious stories across cultures. In fact, many ancient cultures have stories about gods descending from the skies, often with advanced knowledge, technologies, and even the ability to perform seemingly impossible feats. Whether it's the gods of ancient Sumer, the celestial beings worshipped by the Egyptians, or the sky people revered by indigenous tribes, these tales suggest a profound connection between Earth and the stars that transcends ordinary human history. And yet, the suggestion that such stories may have had a literal basis, with extraterrestrial beings leaving behind traces of their presence on Earth, continues to be met with skepticism by the scientific community. One of the most compelling aspects of the extraterrestrial theory in Antarctica is the idea that the continent could be hiding evidence of such beings, left behind millions of years ago when the Earth's climate was far more hospitable than it is today. Antarctica, once a lush and temperate land, is believed to have been a thriving ecosystem long before it became the frozen, barren desert it is now. Could it be that, during this time, an advanced extraterrestrial race visited the continent, leaving behind clues to their existence and technology? The idea that there could be remnants of alien technology or even structures beneath the ice has fascinated researchers, with several anomalies reported over the years that hint at something far beyond the known scientific explanation. One such anomaly is the discovery of what some researchers believe to be an enormous, perfectly geometric shape beneath the Antarctic ice. Satellite imagery has revealed what appears to be a massive, symmetrical object or structure buried deep within the ice, its design resembling that of a pyramid or an artificial construct. This anomaly, as it's often referred to in conspiracy circles, has been the subject of intense debate. Critics argue that it's simply the result of natural geological processes, an ice formation that just happens to look like a pyramid. However, proponents of the theory suggest that its symmetry and precision are too perfect to be the result of random natural forces. Could this structure be a relic of an ancient extraterrestrial civilization, long buried beneath the layers of ice. Other reports point to the discovery of unusual circular formations beneath the ice, which, when analyzed, appear to be almost too perfect to be natural. Some have even gone so far as to claim that these formations resemble landing pads or ancient runways, suggesting the possibility that Antarctica may have once been used as a base or staging ground for extraterrestrial visitors. The idea that alien craft might have used Antarctica as a landing site thousands or even millions of years ago raises fascinating questions about the continent's history. If such evidence were ever to be confirmed, it would not only rewrite the history of human civilization, but also challenge our understanding of the very nature of life in the universe. Another aspect of the extraterrestrial theory in Antarctica centers around the mysterious Wilkes Land crater. Discovered in the 1950s by a group of Australian scientists, the crater lies beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet, far from any known volcanic activity. The sheer size of the crater, along with the anomalies found in the area, has led some to suggest that it may have been created by a massive impact, possibly a meteorite strike, that brought with it elements from another world. Proponents of the extraterrestrial theory argue that this crater could be the site of a hidden alien base, where extraterrestrial technology or even extraterrestrial life forms were once stored or studied. While mainstream scientists believe the crater was formed by a natural impact event, the lack of clear geological explanations for the area continues to fuel speculation. The idea that Antarctica could be hiding alien technology or traces of extraterrestrial life is further supported by the ongoing secrecy surrounding the continent. Unlike most places on Earth, Antarctica remains largely off-limits to independent researchers. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, prohibits military activities and territorial claims, but also restricts access to certain areas. While this treaty is primarily designed to preserve the environment and encourage scientific cooperation, some conspiracy theorists argue that it has also been used to conceal information about what may lie beneath the ice. The absence of independent investigation in certain areas, especially those where unusual anomalies have been detected, only adds fuel to the fire for those who believe that the powers that be are hiding something extraordinary from the public. The notion of a cover-up extends beyond just Antarctica itself. Over the years, numerous UFO sightings have been reported in the southern polar region, with witnesses describing strange lights or unidentified flying objects seen in the skies above Antarctica. These sightings, often dismissed as natural phenomena or atmospheric anomalies, have been the subject of intense scrutiny by UFO researchers. The connection between UFOs and Antarctica, particularly when coupled with reports of strange structures and unknown technology buried beneath the ice, suggests that the continent could be a focal point for extraterrestrial activity on Earth. Some theorists go so far as to suggest that extraterrestrials may have been using Antarctica as a research or staging area, or even as a base of operations from which to monitor life on Earth. In recent years, more and more people are beginning to question the mainstream narrative of human history and the origins of life on Earth. As scientific discoveries continue to reveal the complexity and vastness of the universe, many are starting to entertain the idea that we may not be alone in the cosmos. The discovery of potentially habitable exoplanets, the ongoing search for microbial life on Mars, and the realization that life on Earth could have begun in far more unusual ways than we once believed. All of these developments have opened the door to the possibility that extraterrestrial influences have been at play on our planet for much longer than we thought. Could Antarctica be the final piece of the puzzle, the missing link in our understanding of Earth's extraterrestrial history? If there were indeed alien visitors in ancient times, could the remnants of their technology or their influence still be hiding beneath the ice? What if the true history of our planet and humanity's place in the universe has been suppressed for centuries? These questions continue to haunt researchers, scientists, and conspiracy theorists alike as they search for answers in the frozen expanse of Antarctica. One thing is certain: the mysteries of Antarctica are far from being fully understood. As technology advances and more resources are dedicated to uncovering the secrets buried beneath the ice, the possibility of discovering alien technology or evidence of extraterrestrial life becomes more plausible. Whether or not these theories will ever be proven remains to be seen, but the idea that Antarctica could be hiding the truth about extraterrestrial involvement in human history remains one of the most tantalizing and mysterious possibilities of our time. For now, the frozen continent remains a land of mystery and speculation, a place where the boundaries between science, history, and the unknown blur into something truly extraordinary. As humanity continues to push the boundaries of exploration and technological advancements, there remains a persistent shadow of secrecy surrounding one of the most remote and untouched places on Earth, Antarctica. While most people associate the frozen continent with scientific research and environmental preservation, it is becoming increasingly clear that there are aspects of Antarctica's history, geography, and potential that remain deliberately hidden from the public eye. The rise of global interest in the region, both for its natural resources and its unexplored mysteries, has given birth to a growing body of conspiracy theories and classified operations, some of which suggest that Antarctica's true significance goes far beyond the ordinary scientific narrative. One of the most enduring and provocative theories that has emerged over the years is the suggestion that Antarctica might be hiding evidence of advanced ancient civilizations or even extraterrestrial involvement. While many of these ideas remain speculative, they have captured the imagination of a growing community of researchers, whistleblowers, and truth seekers. The idea that the continent might be concealing extraordinary artifacts, technologies, or even the remnants of civilizations far more advanced than ours is not as far-fetched as it may seem. After all, Antarctica's history is largely a mystery, and much of what we know about the continent is the product of relatively recent exploration. Most of Antarctica's vast landmass remains unexplored, buried beneath miles of ice and snow, which only heightens the allure of what might be hidden beneath its frozen surface. The most tantalizing possibility that has emerged is the notion that the frozen continent could be home to an ancient civilization that predates known human history. There are several theories that point to the idea that Antarctica was once a much more hospitable place, with a climate that supported life and allowed for the development of advanced societies. If such a civilization did exist, it would have been wiped out by a global catastrophe, perhaps a dramatic climate shift, a flood, or even an extraterrestrial impact event that caused the region to become the frozen wasteland we see today. According to these theories, the remnants of this lost civilization could still lie beneath the ice, waiting to be discovered. This idea is bolstered by the fact that Antarctica's landmass has shifted dramatically over millions of years. What was once part of the supercontinent Gondwana, a massive landmass that included South America, Africa, and Australia, is now isolated at the bottom of the Earth. Could it be that, long before Antarctica became a frozen desert, it was home to a thriving, technologically advanced society? To some, this idea resonates with ancient myths and legends about lost civilizations. Perhaps the most famous of these is the story of Atlantis, which has captivated the public imagination for centuries. The tale of Atlantis, as told by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, describes a powerful and highly advanced civilization that flourished thousands of years ago, only to be destroyed in a cataclysmic event. Theories about the location of Atlantis have ranged from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean, but what if the lost city wasn't an island at all? What if it was an ancient civilization buried beneath the ice of Antarctica, waiting to be uncovered? This is a question that has intrigued conspiracy theorists and alternative historians for decades. In recent years, the possibility of discovering evidence of such a lost civilization has become more plausible with the advent of new technologies. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and other advanced techniques are now allowing scientists to peer beneath the ice sheets of Antarctica, revealing strange and unexplainable formations. Some of these formations have been described as perfectly symmetrical structures, appearing to be man-made or at least artificially altered. These discoveries have sparked a flurry of speculation about what could be buried beneath the ice, ranging from ancient buildings, roads, and pyramids to alien technology. Critics argue that these formations are simply natural geological features, the result of glacial movement or ice erosion. But proponents of the theory insist that the symmetry and complexity of these shapes cannot be explained by natural processes alone. One of the most famous of these anomalies is the so-called Pyramid of Antarctica. Using satellite imagery, researchers have identified a pyramid-like structure located deep within the ice sheets of Queen Maud Land. The shape is strikingly similar to the pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, with sharp angles and flat surfaces that appear to have been intentionally constructed. While mainstream scientists dismiss this as a natural ice formation, some theorists argue that the structure is too perfect to be the result of random glacial movement. The possibility that this is the remnant of an ancient civilization buried under miles of ice has captivated the imagination of many. In addition to the pyramid-like structures, there have been reports of other strange formations in Antarctica that resemble roads, pathways, and even entire cities. These formations are often described as being too linear, too symmetrical, to be the result of natural processes. Some theorists believe that these could be remnants of an ancient civilization's infrastructure, suggesting that Antarctica was once home to a thriving society that built extensive road networks and cities. If such a civilization existed, it would challenge everything we know about human history and our understanding of the development of advanced societies. Could it be that an ancient civilization in Antarctica was destroyed by a global disaster, leaving only these mysterious remnants behind? While the idea of a lost civilization in Antarctica is certainly compelling, there are also those who suggest that extraterrestrial beings may have played a role in the continent's history. Some conspiracy theorists point to the numerous UFO sightings reported in the region as evidence that Antarctica has long been a site of extraterrestrial activity. The southernmost continent has been the site of numerous strange and unexplained phenomena, including sightings of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and reports of strange lights in the sky. Many of these sightings have occurred in the vicinity of research stations and remote locations, raising the possibility that extraterrestrials may have had an interest in the continent for much longer than we've realized. One of the most well-known aspects of this theory is the idea that Antarctica could be hiding evidence of an alien base, perhaps located beneath the ice. There have been reports of unusual structures, including what some believe to be alien hangars, in the Antarctic region, although these claims remain largely unverified. The possibility that extraterrestrials have been visiting or even operating in Antarctica for centuries is not as far-fetched as it might seem. Some proponents of this theory suggest that Antarctica's extreme isolation and harsh conditions may have made it an ideal location for alien visitors to operate covertly, away from the prying eyes of the world's governments and populations. In this view, Antarctica could be a kind of staging ground for extraterrestrial activity, a place where alien beings have left their mark on Earth without drawing the attention of the global community. Adding to this narrative is the long-standing secrecy surrounding Antarctica. Despite being one of the most scientifically studied regions on Earth, much of the research conducted on the continent remains classified. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, limits the presence of military forces and prohibits territorial claims, but it also restricts access to certain areas and research data. While the treaty is primarily intended to preserve the environment and encourage peaceful cooperation, critics argue that it may also be used to conceal sensitive information about what lies beneath the ice. Some believe that governments, particularly the United States, Russia, and other major powers, are keeping secrets about what they've discovered in Antarctica, secrets that could involve extraterrestrial artifacts, advanced technology, or evidence of ancient civilizations. In addition to the theories surrounding ancient civilizations and extraterrestrial activity, there is also the possibility that Antarctica contains evidence of a much older and more complex history of Earth itself. According to some researchers, Antarctica could hold the key to understanding the Earth's geological history and the events that have shaped our planet. The continent's ice sheets are often described as a time capsule, preserving ancient records of Earth's climate, atmospheric conditions, and biological life. By drilling into the ice and extracting cores, scientists have been able to study climate patterns going back hundreds of thousands of years. But what if the ice also holds evidence of events that predate our current understanding of Earth's history? Evidence of a time when the planet was very different from the world we know today. If Antarctica was once a thriving, temperate landmass, could it hold clues to the ancient civilizations that might have once lived there? Or perhaps it could provide answers to questions about Earth's early interactions with extraterrestrial life. As technology advances and our ability to explore and study Antarctica improves, it seems increasingly likely that the continent will reveal more of its hidden secrets. Whether it is evidence of a lost civilization, alien technology, or clues to the planet's ancient history, Antarctica's mysteries remain a powerful reminder that there is still much to learn about our world and the universe. As the fascination with Antarctica grows, so does the scrutiny surrounding its geopolitical implications and the possibility of secret activities taking place within its icy borders. While the scientific community often paints the continent as a peaceful, cooperative space for international research, an increasing number of reports and unofficial narratives suggest a far more complex, covert reality. The political and military interests surrounding Antarctica are not as transparent as the public is led to believe. Beneath the surface of climate research, ecological preservation, and resource exploration, there may be an entirely different agenda at play, one that involves territorial disputes, covert military operations, and geopolitical maneuvering among some of the world's most powerful nations. At the heart of this intrigue lies the Antarctic Treaty System, signed in 1959 to ensure that the continent remained dedicated to scientific research and free from military conflict. The treaty was initially seen as a landmark achievement, promoting international cooperation and a shared commitment to preserving Antarctica's unique environment. For decades, it effectively prevented territorial claims and military tensions in the region, allowing for a relatively peaceful coexistence between the nations with interests in the continent. However, as global geopolitics shifts and resource extraction becomes a more pressing concern, the future of the Antarctic Treaty and the stability it has provided may be at risk. The treaty has long been a symbol of international cooperation, but as nations grow increasingly desperate for access to resources, its provisions are becoming more challenging to enforce. The growing desire to access the mineral wealth buried beneath Antarctica's ice sheets has sparked concerns about whether the continent's status as a global commons can remain intact. Antarctica is believed to contain vast reserves of minerals, oil, and natural gas, as well as rare earth elements essential for modern technologies. As resource depletion becomes a pressing issue worldwide, countries are beginning to look to Antarctica as the next frontier for resource extraction. The fact that large portions of the continent are already scientifically mapped and surveyed by various nations has led many to believe that the prospect of exploiting these resources is no longer a question of if, but when. And yet, the legal framework of the Antarctic Treaty, which prohibits mineral extraction for commercial purposes, continues to create tension between countries vying for control of the region's wealth. In recent years, countries like China, Russia, and the United States have made significant strides in expanding their presence in Antarctica. China, in particular, has become increasingly active, establishing research stations and engaging in a variety of activities that some view as preparation for future resource extraction. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, which seeks to expand Chinese influence through infrastructure development and economic investment in key regions, is believed to be part of a broader strategy to gain access to critical resources around the world. Antarctica, with its untapped mineral wealth, represents a strategic opportunity for China to secure a foothold in the global resource market. China's interest in the continent is not just about scientific research. It is about securing access to the resources that could fuel the nation's continued rise to global dominance. Similarly, Russia, with its long history of military expansion and territorial disputes, is also seen as a significant player in the Antarctic region. Russia has long staked a claim to parts of the continent, particularly in the eastern regions, and its increased military and scientific presence in the Arctic has raised concerns about its potential to extend its influence southward. Russia's military presence in the Arctic, along with its strategic interests in resource-rich areas like the Barents Sea, suggests that it may seek to expand its footprint in Antarctica as well. This could potentially lead to a new kind of territorial competition, one where the Antarctic Treaty's provisions are increasingly disregarded in favor of unilateral claims and resource-driven motives. The United States, while traditionally a strong advocate for the preservation of Antarctica's status as a global commons, also has its own strategic interests in the region. The U.S. has long maintained a significant military presence in the Southern Hemisphere, with multiple research bases and installations scattered across the continent. The U.S. government has long held that the military presence in Antarctica is primarily for scientific purposes, but there are those who argue that the U.S. is positioning itself for a larger role in any future resource extraction activities. As the world's leading superpower, the U.S. has an economic and geopolitical interest in securing access to Antarctica's resources, and its military presence may one day serve as a strategic leverage point in future negotiations. The potential for militarization in Antarctica is a growing concern as the competition for access to resources intensifies. While the Antarctic Treaty bans military activities on the continent, it does not explicitly prohibit the use of military assets for research or other non-combat activities. As the scientific and geopolitical stakes continue to rise, some nations may seek to exploit this loophole by using military resources to support research activities or even to protect their interests in the region. The fear is that this could eventually lead to the establishment of military bases under the guise of scientific research, paving the way for a new arms race in the southernmost region of the Earth. The presence of military infrastructure could drastically alter the peaceful nature of Antarctica, turning it from a neutral space for scientific collaboration into a battleground for global dominance. As nations position themselves for a future in which Antarctica becomes a resource-rich territory, the issue of territorial claims becomes increasingly contentious. The Antarctic Treaty, which effectively froze territorial disputes, is becoming increasingly difficult to enforce. While the treaty allows for scientific collaboration and shared access to the continent, it does not take into account the new realities of global resource competition. Countries that once adhered to the treaty's principles of peaceful cooperation are now looking for ways to circumvent its provisions. As the threat of climate change and rising sea levels accelerates, the urgency to secure access to Antarctica's freshwater and mineral resources grows. One of the most pressing issues at the heart of this geopolitical struggle is the question of how nations will navigate the competing claims over portions of Antarctica. Some countries, such as the United Kingdom, Argentina, and Chile, have long-standing territorial claims on parts of the continent, while others, like the United States, have historically maintained a more neutral stance. However, as the global race for resources intensifies, the potential for territorial disputes to escalate into full-blown conflicts becomes more likely. As powerful nations continue to expand their presence in Antarctica, tensions may rise over access to critical resources like freshwater, oil, and minerals, potentially sparking a new Cold War-style standoff in the Southern Hemisphere. Adding another layer of complexity to the situation is the role of private corporations in Antarctica's future. While the Antarctic Treaty prohibits commercial exploitation of resources, it is unclear how this prohibition will be enforced in the face of growing demand for rare minerals and other valuable resources. As global corporations look to secure their future access to critical materials, some may seek to bypass traditional government channels and establish private partnerships with countries willing to bend the rules. The involvement of private corporations in the exploitation of Antarctica's resources could create a new class of economic and political power brokers, further complicating the delicate balance of international relations on the continent. In the face of growing competition for Antarctica's resources, it is likely that the international community will eventually have to confront the issue of how to manage the continent's future. Will the Antarctic Treaty continue to serve as a viable framework for cooperation, Or will the pressures of resource competition and territorial ambition force nations to abandon the treaty in favor of more aggressive policies? As climate change accelerates and the prospect of resource extraction becomes more pressing, the future of Antarctica as a neutral, peaceful zone may be in jeopardy. The continent, once a symbol of global cooperation, could quickly become a flashpoint for geopolitical conflict, with nations vying for control over the precious resources hidden beneath its icy surface. The growing tension surrounding Antarctica underscores a fundamental question about the future of global cooperation in the face of increasing resource scarcity and environmental challenges. Will nations be able to set aside their differences and continue to uphold the principles of the Antarctic Treaty, or will the lure of resources and power prove too great to resist? As the world's geopolitical landscape continues to shift, the frozen continent will undoubtedly remain a central focus of international attention, and its future will likely play a significant role in shaping the global balance of power in the 21st century. The time for answers is drawing near, and the stakes have never been higher. The mysteries surrounding Antarctica have fascinated explorers, researchers, and conspiracy theorists alike for centuries. But beyond the intrigue of lost civilizations and extraterrestrial theories, there is another aspect of Antarctica's history that has remained shrouded in secrecy for decades: its connection to the rise of modern superpowers and their hidden operations. The political and military implications of Antarctica are often underestimated or dismissed, overshadowed by the region's scientific allure and its pristine environment. Yet, as the world's powers vie for control of the region's vast resources, the continent's significance is becoming increasingly evident, not just in terms of geopolitics, but also in the context of covert operations, clandestine experiments, and even technological advancements that could reshape the course of human history. In the decades following World War II, the interest in Antarctica was no longer purely scientific. The geopolitical landscape was shifting dramatically, and the Cold War was beginning to take shape. The U.S. and the Soviet Union were locked in a battle for global supremacy, each trying to gain an edge over the other in every possible domain. While most of the world's attention was focused on Europe and the Middle East, both superpowers began to quietly invest in their presence in Antarctica. This period marked the beginning of a new type of competition, one that extended far beyond the scientific and environmental domains into areas of military strategy, covert research, and the acquisition of potentially world-changing technologies. During this time, several international treaties were signed to maintain peace and prevent the militarization of Antarctica. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, was designed to prevent territorial claims and military confrontations, ensuring that Antarctica remained a space dedicated to scientific exploration and environmental conservation. The treaty was a triumph of diplomacy, promoting peaceful cooperation between nations and establishing Antarctica as a global commons. Yet, beneath this surface of international cooperation, the geopolitical implications of Antarctica remained significant as the Cold War intensified. The U.S. and the Soviet Union both recognized the strategic importance of the continent, both for its resources and its geographical location at the bottom of the world, which made it a perfect vantage point for military and intelligence operations. While the Antarctic Treaty prohibited military activities, it did not fully restrict the use of military assets for non-combat purposes, such as research or logistical support. This loophole allowed the superpowers to increase their presence in Antarctica under the guise of scientific research. The U.S. set up several research stations, including the famous McMurdo Station, which became a key hub for American operations in the region. The Soviet Union, not to be outdone, also established its own research facilities, and both powers began conducting joint scientific missions, all while strategically positioning themselves for any future military advantage. This seemingly benign collaboration in the name of science was, in fact, a thinly veiled proxy war for control of the continent's future. As the Cold War progressed, both the U.S. and the Soviet Union began to deploy more advanced technology to Antarctica, including radar systems, satellites, and covert surveillance equipment. The ability to monitor activities in the southern hemisphere, particularly from the vantage point of Antarctica, became an essential tool for intelligence agencies, providing insight into weather patterns, military movements, and potential missile trajectories. The continent, once a symbol of peaceful cooperation, had now become a critical component of the global intelligence apparatus. Beyond intelligence gathering, there are growing speculations that both superpowers had conducted highly classified experiments in Antarctica during this period. While the world focused on the arms race and nuclear stockpiles, the powers may have also been engaged in secret projects involving advanced technologies such as climate manipulation, weather control, and even psychological warfare. These experiments, often hidden behind the veil of scientific research, could have had far-reaching consequences not just for the geopolitical balance of power, but for the future of humanity itself. The desire to control Antarctica's environment, both for strategic and scientific purposes, could explain the large number of seemingly inexplicable activities conducted there. One such mystery is the phenomenon known as the Bitter Cold Project. This highly classified operation, believed to have taken place in the 1960s, involved the installation of high-powered electromagnetic devices deep within the ice of Antarctica. These devices were said to have been designed to manipulate the planet's magnetosphere and test the effects of electromagnetic fields on both human behavior and climate patterns. Some researchers have even suggested that these experiments could have been linked to mind control technologies, with the potential to influence the thoughts and actions of populations on a global scale. While no conclusive evidence has emerged to verify these claims, the very existence of such a project raises serious questions about the types of research that have been conducted under the guise of peaceful cooperation in Antarctica. Adding another layer of complexity to this situation is the role of Nazi Germany during World War II. While the Nazis were primarily focused on their ambitions in Europe, there is compelling evidence to suggest that they had an interest in Antarctica as well. In the years leading up to the war, a number of Nazi expeditions were sent to Antarctica to explore the region, ostensibly for scientific purposes. These expeditions, including the infamous 1938-39 German Antarctic expedition, were part of a larger effort by the Nazis to lay claim to a section of the continent they called New Swabia. It is believed that the Nazis may have been searching for resources, particularly uranium, which was vital for their atomic weapons program. Some conspiracy theorists even suggest that the Nazis discovered ancient alien technology buried beneath the ice, which they intended to use to fuel their ambitions for world domination. Following the war, a significant number of high-ranking Nazi officials and scientists were recruited by both the U.S. and the Soviet Union under the secretive Operation Paperclip program. These individuals, many of whom had experience with advanced weaponry and aerospace technology, were brought to the United States and other parts of the world to work on classified military projects. The possibility that some of these scientists were involved in covert operations in Antarctica remains a subject of intense speculation. Was Antarctica, in some way, involved in the post-war technological advancements that propelled both the U.S. and the Soviet Union into the space age? Were these developments, in part, the result of alien or otherworldly influences hidden deep beneath the ice? The idea of secret Nazi research in Antarctica gained further traction with the mysterious disappearance of a fleet of Nazi ships and planes during an ill-fated mission in 1947. The mission, known as Operation High Jump, was led by Admiral Richard E. Byrd, a renowned American explorer, and aimed to establish a military presence in Antarctica. While the official narrative suggests that the operation was focused on mapping and surveying the continent, many believe that it was, in fact, a covert mission to locate and neutralize any remaining Nazi forces in the region. According to some reports, Byrd's fleet encountered strange and unexplained phenomena during the operation, including sightings of unidentified flying objects, and were forced to retreat under mysterious circumstances. These events have led some to speculate that Byrd's mission was not just about exploration, but was tied to a larger, more secretive objective to uncover the remnants of Nazi activity and perhaps even extraterrestrial technology hidden beneath the ice. The connection between Antarctica and UFO phenomena has long been a subject of intrigue. Over the years, there have been numerous reports of strange lights and unidentified objects being spotted in the skies above the continent. Some believe that these sightings are related to secret military activity, while others suggest that they could be linked to extraterrestrial visitors. Antarctica's remote and isolated location makes it an ideal place for covert operations, both human and non-human, to take place without attracting attention. With its vast expanse of ice and snow, the continent offers a perfect cover for hidden bases, underground facilities, and technologies that would be impossible to detect elsewhere. The mystery surrounding Antarctica deepens when considering the increasing number of private corporations and billionaires showing interest in the continent. As governments navigate the complexities of international law and the Antarctic Treaty, private entities have begun to seek access to Antarctica for resource extraction, scientific research, and even tourism. The rise of private space exploration companies and the increasing interest in off-world colonization only add to the sense that Antarctica is playing a central role in the next phase of human expansion, both on Earth and beyond. What is the real motivation behind these interests? Could they be connected to ongoing secret military projects, extraterrestrial discoveries, or something even more extraordinary? As the years go by, the true nature of Antarctica's role in global geopolitics, secret operations, and possibly even the future of humanity remains uncertain. The continent's enigmatic status as a place of peace and scientific discovery is increasingly being overshadowed by its hidden potential as a geopolitical and technological battleground. Whether it is the pursuit of resources, the exploration of ancient secrets, or the race to develop groundbreaking technologies, Antarctica's mysteries are only just beginning to unfold. The continent holds a treasure trove of unknowns, and as the world's superpowers and private entities turn their eyes southward, the questions surrounding Antarctica will continue to deepen, leaving us to wonder what secrets are still buried beneath its icy veil. The allure of Antarctica's secrets is not limited to just geopolitical maneuvering, covert operations, or the tantalizing possibility of hidden civilizations beneath the ice. As exploration intensifies, another layer of intrigue emerges. The scientific and technological experiments that have been carried out in Antarctica, some of which may have far-reaching consequences for our understanding of the Earth, the human mind, and the very fabric of reality itself. While many research projects in Antarctica are well documented, others remain highly classified, leaving only fragments of information available to the public. What exactly has been going on beneath the surface of this icy expanse? And how might these hidden experiments shape the future of science, technology, and even human evolution? To understand the scope of scientific experimentation in Antarctica, one must first acknowledge the sheer remoteness and isolation that the continent provides. Antarctica is often referred to as the last frontier for scientific research, due to its extreme environment and uncharted territories that make it an ideal testing ground for cutting-edge technologies. The region is home to a number of international research stations, where scientists from around the world study everything from climate change to glaciology, biology, and astronomy. However, it is not just the environment and climate that make Antarctica an attractive place for research. It is also the possibility that the continent might hold answers to some of the most profound questions about the universe. One of the most widely known and well-publicized scientific endeavors in Antarctica is the search for extraterrestrial life. The extreme conditions of Antarctica, with its vast ice sheets and remote location, make it an ideal place to search for clues about the origins of life on Earth and the potential for life elsewhere in the universe. The search for microbial life on Mars, for example, has often been linked to research in Antarctica, as the frozen continent is home to some of the most extreme environments on Earth, similar to those found on the Red Planet. Scientists have discovered microbial life forms in the ice and soil of Antarctica that can survive in extreme conditions, raising the possibility that life on Mars, or elsewhere in the solar system, might also be capable of existing in similar environments. But while these types of experiments are well documented and publicly known, Other more controversial and far-reaching scientific experiments have taken place in Antarctica that have not received the same level of attention. These projects are often shrouded in secrecy, sometimes hidden behind the veil of national security or classified scientific endeavors. In recent decades, there have been numerous reports of experiments involving not just biology and geology, but also the manipulation of the very forces of nature itself. Could some of the experiments in Antarctica be related to the control of weather patterns, climate engineering, or even advanced technologies that could alter the course of human civilization? One such area of experimentation that has sparked much speculation is the possibility that weather manipulation or geoengineering projects are being tested in Antarctica. In the face of growing concerns about climate change and global warming, some scientists have proposed radical solutions to mitigate the effects of these environmental crises, including manipulating the Earth's weather patterns. Antarctica, with its extreme conditions and isolated location, provides an ideal setting for testing such technologies. The idea that weather control technologies have been tested in Antarctica is not new. Several years ago, researchers in the region noticed unusual temperature shifts and strange weather patterns that some believed were the result of human intervention. While many attributed these phenomena to natural causes or seasonal changes, others have speculated that they were the unintended consequences of geoengineering experiments. Could these experiments be linked to the development of technologies designed to manipulate the global climate, or are they part of a larger, more secretive effort to harness the power of nature itself? Beyond weather manipulation, there are also reports of experiments being conducted on the human mind in Antarctica. Some conspiracy theorists claim that the remote environment of Antarctica, with its isolation and harsh conditions, is the perfect setting for conducting psychological experiments, including those that involve mind control and behavior modification. According to these theories, these experiments might be linked to the development of advanced technologies in psychological warfare, as well as efforts to understand and influence human consciousness. Such projects are said to have been carried out under the guise of scientific research, with military or intelligence agencies funding and overseeing the work. Although there is no definitive proof that such experiments are taking place in Antarctica, the secrecy surrounding many research projects on the continent only fuels these suspicions. One of the most persistent theories surrounding Antarctica is the idea that there is a hidden network of underground bases, either built by humans or extraterrestrials, where secret experiments are being conducted. Over the years, there have been numerous reports of strange anomalies, unusual sounds, and unexplained events that have led some to believe that there are underground facilities beneath the ice, hidden from view. These bases are thought to be used for a variety of purposes, including the development of advanced technologies, the study of extraterrestrial life, or even the storage of ancient artifacts. Some believe that the remnants of ancient alien civilizations, possibly dating back millions of years, are buried beneath the ice, waiting to be discovered. Others speculate that advanced human civilizations, perhaps from the distant past, may have established these bases long before modern explorers arrived. The idea that there are hidden bases beneath the ice has been fueled by numerous reports of strange activity in the region, including sightings of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and inexplicable phenomena that seem to defy scientific explanation.